What's up, everybody? Welcome to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesar Sportsbook. I'm Katie Mox. Today, we are talking Monday Night Football angles. We're also going to recap yesterday's game. And to do that, let's bring in our guest, Carmine Bianco of Wager Talk. Thank you for joining us today. Carmine, how are we doing?
So we're doing good. It's Monday, another Monday Night Football game. Not as great as the primetime games we saw yesterday. We had an early primetime game, if you're talking about primetime in Germany, and then the team I cheer for, the Buffalo Bills, in primetime, not doing as well last night. But
Carmine, I was like, you know what? The Bills are going to win this game. It's the Damar Hamlin game. There's going to be a lot of pomp and circumstance. And I felt like, they play down to lesser teams, but they really step up when it matters. And look, I'm not taking anything away from the Bengals. That is a very good team. Joe Burrow looks to be all the way back. He can run, he can throw, he could do it all. He's spreading the love around a little bit, but the Bills just didn't play as well as I thought they could have. They disappointed me last night, not only because they lost me money, but just in general.
Yeah, they lost me a few dollars as well too last night. The week prior, we saw the Bills trying to establish the running game. We saw Josh Allen get out of the pocket and rush. And the thought process was for the Bills going into this game, and I thought the Bills would try and control the clock by rushing against a Bengals team that has a porous rush defense and get Allen out of the pocket. And instead, at the 2-minute warning of the first half, the possession clock showed 20 minutes for the Bengals, 7.5 minutes for the Bills. You're not going to win a lot of games when there's that much disparity on the possession clock.
Well, and it felt just like the O-line was just crumbling too. There were so many times. And look, I'm not to take anything away from Cincinnati's pass rush, but it just felt like Josh Allen didn't really have a lot of time to do things. Now, whether he was holding on to the ball too long or the O-line was crumbling, I don't really know. And the interceptions too have just become such a thing with Josh Allen. And I'm curious what you think about interceptions in general. I feel like they're up this year. Like quarterbacks are throwing picks left and right. I feel like they were a little bit down last year. Do you find that there's more interceptions being thrown this year?
I think there is defenses. I think defenses as a whole have gotten better. There's a lot of teams that are bad, but we saw a lot of points being scored. We see a lot of quarterbacks that are just chucking up that ball, and then you also get when you've got when a team is down, obviously a couple scores or more, they sort of get away from their game plan. They start to throw a lot more, but it's a problem with Josh Allen since 2018. 71 turnovers. That is a lot of turnovers for Allen, and I'm just not sure if it's a play calling Dorsey, if it's McDermott, but at least as far as he goes, more is expected of a quarterback like Josh Allen, and they're just not getting it done.
Yeah. Well, I agree 100%. For the last 3 years, I had bet on the Bills, to win the Super Bowl or to win the division, not all of the conference, all of these things. And it's been, I didn't put money on them this year, but I love Bills Mafia. I love Josh Allen. He's a Northern California kid, grew up a 49ers fan. And so it's just been painful to watch this season. But let's talk about the other primetime game, the one that was at 9:30 in the morning, the one that I think we were all super excited to see. The Chiefs did beat the Dolphins 21-14, but it was a pretty low offensive performance from both quarterbacks and their teams. The Chiefs defense, as they have been all season long, and you kind of alluded to this in why quarterbacks have been throwing so many interceptions, is the defenses are just better. Historically, the Chiefs have been an offensive juggernaut and the defense was whatever. And in this game, they were able to hold the Dolphins to just 14 points. Of course, there was that scoop and score, deciding touchdown to his late fumble. What did you think of this game? And what do you think of the Chiefs and the Dolphins?
Chiefs played well, and as you mentioned, and rightfully so, we always think about the Chiefs putting up with Mahomes putting up a ton of points because they need to, because their defense allows it. But their defense has been solid this year. After signing the contract, I think it was Chris Jones coming back. They've just looked good each and every week, and in spots in which you think they possibly can lose, they don't lose. The Chargers came to town, and everyone thought the Chargers are going to be the team that are going to knock off the Chiefs, and the Chiefs beat them. They're a very good team right now, and like even looking at their schedule, you look at it, and they get Philly off a bye. But they have some tough games coming up as
Yeah.
well too. They get the Bills, Cincy on December 10th and 31st, and then they end with the Chargers in LA on January 7th. Now, by the time they hit LA, they could have the number 1 seed locked up, but the aforementioned Joe Burrows, and of
Yeah.
course the Baltimore
The
Ravens, I
Ravens.
wouldn't put it
Yeah.
past either one of those two because they're playing extremely well right now.
Extreme. I'm really high on the Ravens right now. I am of course on the Bengals as well, but this Ravens team looks to be special. They've kind of struggled in the last couple of years, and it seems like everything. I mean, they finally got rid of Greg Roman. I feel like Todd Monken is doing a lot of great things. The offense is moving. Lamar is passing the ball. Of course, the run game and the defense has been. I bet against them versus the Lions, and I learned my lesson. I was like, oh, of course they're one of the best red zone defenses and passing defenses. But what quarterbacks have they faced? Okay, well then they made the Lions and Jared Goff look silly. So and I looked silly with that bet as well. Like you said, Chiefs on a bye. They had the Eagles coming up Monday Night Football. What a game that's going to be. Any early thoughts on this game? Do you get? I mean, if you look at the Eagles, they're the only 7-1 team, and they started a little bit shaky, right? Even though they were winning games, they didn't look like the offensive juggernaut that we were used to. Even the defense wasn't as good. Obviously, new coordinators on both sides, but they're starting to click. I'm worried about that game for the Chiefs.
Yeah, I get it. The Eagles are looking good, but I keep waiting for the Eagles to regress a little bit off
Me
of last
too.
year's season,
I've
and
given up on it, Carmine. I've given up.
it is just not happening.
Yeah.
Listen, the Cowboys, uh,
Yeah.
yesterday on Sunday played quite possibly one of their best games of the season, and it was and we'll probably talk about it later. It was a game
Yeah.
of inches. If Dak doesn't step out on the 2-point conversion, or it was a game of inches. The knee being down just before on 4th down, just before crossing into the goal line. So there was a lot, but sometimes good teams respond, and
Yeah.
that's what the Eagles did. That tush push that they have is absolutely impossible to stop. I don't
Yeah.
know who is going to stop it. It's just you can literally get 6 yards on 1st down, and then your next 3 downs you just push it forward 2 or 3. No one's going to want to see that because you turn the NFL into a rugby league, but
Right.
they have it down pat. It'll be an interesting game because I think Jalen Hurts, we saw it. I don't think he's 100% healthy right now. And they're never going to tell you, especially Nick Sirianni, he's never going to tell you if there's something wrong with Jalen Hurts, but he trots out there
Right.
and he gets it done. So
Yeah.
it is going to be, by far, it's going to be a great game. I don't even know at this point which way or what the line would even be. I have to believe KC would be a short priced favorite, probably a couple points to 2.5 points.
Yeah.
I don't think you can give the Eagles more than 3.
I would agree with you on that one. And so let's kind of get into that game. And you've alluded to a lot of the things. Eagles beat Cowboys 28-23. It seemed like Hurts was it looked like more of a stinger to me than an actual injury. I think he just got like a helmet to the leg there, or the knee, and kind of stung for a little bit. And then he kind of seemed to be fine. But like you said, Sirianni's never really going to tell us if anything is wrong. Eagles actually 8-1 now, not 7-1, best record in the league. They do have a gauntlet coming up. They've got the Chiefs, the Bills, the Niners, the Cowboys again, and like you said, the Cowboys did play a pretty good game. Now, who do you think so far when you look at who's going to be in the Super Bowl? Is it Chiefs, Eagles at this point? Again, do we see a rematch? Maybe the Ravens? I mean, of course, I'd love to say my 49ers, but over the last 3 weeks, they haven't shown us anything. But do you think this Cowboys team is an actual contender?
I think they'll make the playoffs.
They always
I
do.
had future bets. I have future bets on the Cowboys win total over 9.5, which I still feel good about, and them to win the division. Now, their route to winning the division is obviously a little tougher. For them
Yeah.
to win the division, and this is putting aside some of the games for both Philadelphia and the Dallas Cowboys that I think both teams could and should win. But
Yeah.
for the Cowboys, they're going to need to win at least 2 of the 3 games in which they play the Bills, Miami, and Philadelphia. The return match against Philadelphia, with Philadelphia obviously being one of the one of the three games that they're going to have to win. And then you're also going to have to rely on, and it's a lot of what ifs. You're going to have to rely on the Eagles dropping a couple games against either the Bills, Chiefs, and Niners. Your Niners, who want to exact a little bit of revenge on them. The Eagles got them with no QBs, of course. So we'll see what happens when those two meet up. But again, it's one of those ones where, I think the one against the Chiefs is the big one. If they can go and somehow beat the Chiefs, I think that gives them the division. They get the Bills at home, so at Lincoln Field. So that's a lot easier, I think, for Philadelphia, especially the way the Bills are performing against very good teams on the road. They just aren't doing it. So they're going to have to drop two of those games, I think, against the Bills, Chiefs, and Niners. And then obviously the Cowboys are going to have to beat Philadelphia. So there's a lot of what ifs, but they are clearly in the driver's seat right now. Jalen Hurts and the Eagles.
Well, like they say, any given Sunday, anything can happen. So they've started off this strong. I thought the Niners winning 5 in a row were the strongest team in the NFL, and they went and dropped 3 games in a row. So who knows? Maybe what we're finally waiting for, the Eagles to regress and they all of a sudden drop 3 games. Unlikely, but it would make me actually very happy. Moving on, this Ravens team, and we kind of talked about this at the top of the show, absolutely dominate the Seahawks 37-3. And look, there was a lot of people who believe in the Seahawks, and I'm not saying that the Seahawks aren't legit. I'm not saying that I have a bet on them to make the playoffs, and I do feel still pretty good about that. But I do feel like they were exposed a little bit. I think people need to pump the brakes on the Seahawks in terms of them being better than the 49ers. Again, I know the 49ers just lost 3 games, but the Ravens just dominated them in every aspect of the ball. Like, what did you think of this game?
Yeah, it was over before it even started. It just seemed like, and transparency. I thought the Seahawks were the right play as well too, getting 6 points, playing extremely well coached as well too. And I thought they could do enough to keep this one close. And then, like, even the historical numbers on Lamar Jackson, as a home favorite, aren't the best numbers. So I just thought 6 points was a ton of points here, even with the Ravens team that's playing extremely well. I just didn't expect them to play as well as they did.
Right.
And that game was effectively over in the second quarter. And you draw a line through it and you move on to your next wager, I think, at that point.
Yeah.
But it's very tough. But listen, the Ravens are one of the best 3 teams right now in the league. Obviously, you look at it and you say, I'm looking at it, and as far as power rankings go, I would say it's the Ravens, it is KC, and it is Philadelphia right now. But on the outside, knocking on that door to get in, there are a lot of good teams. And listen, the Niners will recover from these 3 games that they've lost. The Cowboys are going to be better, but they have to win the big games, which they haven't done yet. And the one that people might not be talking about, but they should be talking about, is the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow's healthy. They're playing well. And we all remember, and if you don't, let's look at the 49ers last season after the trade for CMC. And that team was unbeatable with all the tools they had and a great defense. And Cincinnati's getting it done. If they continue to improve their defense along the way, they are going to be a tough out.
They are. And Joe, first of all, Joe, I was in his post game last night. I'm like, God, this guy's teeth are so white. Like I was like, he's doing something to his teeth. He's very, very white, very handsome guy, and just playing really well. And I think maybe a lot of people count them out because they weren't good. And, the first 3 games they were losing, and it didn't, but he was injured. And now that you see that he's fully healthy, you can see what the difference is. But let's talk about a fun one yesterday. Texans beat the Bucs. This one ended up being a shootout, 39-37. CJ Stroud coming off a game where he only had 120 passing yards. He was beat out by Bryce Young, which has not been a very good quarterback this year. He comes out, he throws for 470 yards, Carmine, 5 touchdowns. One Were you surprised? I mean, everyone's got to be surprised. 475 touchdowns. That's just not even something that you see Patrick Mahomes and some of the big guys do very often, if ever. I don't know if Patrick Mahomes had a 5 touchdown game. And what do you think of CJ Stroud? Right now, he is minus 800 for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, that it's a huge price. And listen, I really love the story
Yeah.
with Puka, and he
Yeah.
just is catching balls and playing extremely well. But Stroud, 470 yards in a game for a rookie.
Unbelievable.
Um, it is it's never been done before. It's the highest
Mhm.
passing yards by any rookie in a game,
Wow.
and he's done it. 14 TDs, I think one INT. Also impressive, because you think with rookie quarterbacks throwing those INTs, but he hasn't done it. It's unbelievable. And if you're a fantasy football owner, you got to love it. The guy put up 40
Yeah.
plus points.
Oh,
That's more
Carmine.
than my team. Half my
Yes.
team scored last week, this past weekend, and he is putting up the numbers, and it's great. A rookie with confidence, a
Yeah.
QB with
Yeah.
confidence is extremely tough, because the team plays for him. The offensive
Yeah.
line protects him,
Yeah.
and they're not out of it. They're what, four? Did you say they're 4-4 right now? They've
Yeah.
got a shot.
Yeah.
You're never out of it.
No, you're never out of it. And that's the thing too, well, funny that you said that about fantasy, because the first thing that went through my mind is like, thank God I'm not playing against him in fantasy this week. Because like you said, you wouldn't even stand a chance. But you look at this Texans team and they're just fun and they're great. I love D'Amico Ryans. He was an incredible defensive coordinator. The team absolutely loved him. He goes back to the Texans where he played for a long time. They have an incredible draft. And, CJ Stroud was one of those names that was circling around at the draft as maybe someone that would like fall out of being a favorite. And then you have the Texans that get him and then move up and get their other guy. And it's just been, I'm really happy for them, because this has been kind of a poverty franchise for so long. All the Deshaun Watson stuff, and then trading away D-Hop and doing all of these things, and these are good fans. I've been to a Houston Texans game. They're good people. I'm happy that they have good stuff going on for them.
Yeah, and you mentioned the history of this team. I think there was a lot of bad blood, and when you sort of bury those ghosts, or and you move on, and I think this season is the first step of moving on. If he continues to have the season that he's having, they're going to have the utmost confidence in him moving forward, and then you start to bring in the other pieces
Yeah.
that can make this team a playoff contender next season if they don't do it this year.
Agreed. All right, we already talked about the Sunday night game, I feel like, at length at the top of the show. So let's move on, and let's look at any early leans that you like. Yesterday I went and locked in Baltimore Ravens minus 5.5. I'm looking at Caesars right now. It's already moved up to 6. But based on what we've seen from this team, I was like, I got to grab it now, because I did think this could go all the way up to a touchdown. They're on a 4-game winning streak. They rank 1 in EPA per play, 3 in EPA allowed per play during their 3-game winning streak. They beat the Browns already 28-3. Yes, that was with DTR. But Deshaun Watson hasn't really shown all that much of being an offensive juggernaut like we saw with him at the Texans. So even at the 6, I kind of still like the Ravens, and I think that this line can move. Any early leans that you have heading into what are you in, week 10 now? Week 11? Week 11?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. I get it with the Ravens one. It's one that I looked at as well too. My fear going into this weekend's game was the same thought I had going into this past weekend's game with us, as far as the
Yeah.
Ravens went, and they blew that thought process that I had right out of my mind, which was
Yeah.
sort of like the sandwich game where they're playing Seattle. Might look past Seattle to the fact that they have 2 divisional games coming up against the
Mm,
Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals,
right.
and just might not perform, but perform they did. So you can't even use that this week and say, well, maybe they're looking past the Browns because they
Yeah.
have the Bengals coming, or the following week. Um, I'm not even concerned about them looking ahead to the Bengals. They're just playing extremely well right now, and a team that playing that well, I think you're on the right side as far as that one goes. I'm going to the game that's going to be played in Germany. I
Ooh,
like the way the Colts are playing.
Guten Tag.
Uh, Minshew. Minshew wasn't the one that was supposed to be leading this team. Obviously, it was supposed to be Anthony Richardson, but he's injured and surgery ended his season. But
Yeah.
this
Minshew's
line
fun though. As
is,
far as backup quarterbacks, like Minshew's a fun one.
yeah. Yeah, and he's only really had one of his starts. He's only had one bad game, and that was against Jacksonville, where he threw 3 INTs in that game. And Jacksonville was rolling at the time as well, too, prior to going into the bye week. So it is a game in which you can understand why they lost it, but they're playing well now, and the Bill Belichick magic in New England isn't doing anything. This team is 2-7. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're going to finish last in the AFC East, and I wouldn't put it past them. He's not a guy who tanks it, but if Mac Jones isn't their guy, maybe they do want Caleb
Yeah.
Williams. Who knows?
Yeah.
We will see. They do own their own pick, unlike people who think that Carolina could tank, but Carolina
Mm.
obviously have a QB, and they also do not own their first pick that belongs to the Chicago Bears. So they wouldn't be tanking either, even though they're losing games. I think the Colts under a field goal here is the bet that you should jump on, because I can see it
Yeah.
getting up to 2.5,
Yeah.
and possibly hitting that key number of 3.
Yep. Hard to argue with you there. And it's interesting that you bring up Bill Belichick, because I think a lot of people are like, oh, is he going to retire after this year? Maybe he should, hang up his coaching credentials. And then he goes and resigns for more years. And while it doesn't seem like something Bill Belichick would do, it's very obvious that Mac Jones is not the guy. And Caleb Williams is special. I mean, despite his defense letting him down every single week, he still goes out there and he balls out. And it's just unfortunate that he is paired with such a horrid defense at USC. But I wouldn't be surprised if, because I feel like Bill Belichick is always playing chess, not checkers. You know what I mean? So you're never going to assume that's what he's doing, but I wouldn't be surprised. We are going to take a quick break here, and we come back. We are going to get into a Monday Night Football with our friend Carmine Bianco. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words: Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the type of benefits only Caesars can offer: hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. Welcome back, everyone, to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesars Sportsbook, here with Carmine Bianco from Wager Talk. All right, Carmine, let's get right in to Monday Night Football, and it's an ugly one. I mean, I'm not gonna sugarcoat this one. You got the Chargers and the Jets. Chargers laying 3.5. This total 39.5. Unders, primetime unders have been historic over the last couple of years. Unders this year have been historic. Are you looking at a total here?
I am. I think the only way you can actually play this is, as far as the total goes, is
Yeah.
the primetime unders have been Money in the Bank all season long, and I think you have to look at the primetime under in this one. It's at I think you said it was currently at 39.5. I saw like a 40
Yeah.
up on a couple of the screens. Obviously,
Grab the 40
I
where
would
you
grab the
can.
40
Yeah.
if you can, but I just don't see a lot of points in this one, and I don't see a lot of points from obviously from the Jets in this one. I think the Chargers are the play here, but I would take the under.
I love that. I'm not taking a bet on the side or the total here. If I did, it would definitely be the under. I just don't like betting on either of these teams. I mean, the Chargers just find a way to lose everything. And how much can you really trust Zach Wilson? So instead, I'm going to go to Herbert, and I'm going to take him to throw an interception. I try to get a quarterback interception prop wherever I can. 1, I feel like they're up. 2, is just kind of something that I like to do. And if you look at Herbert, he did manage to throw a clean game against the Bears. I don't know how hard that actually is, but he has been quite an interception machine this season, especially as of late. 3 straight games, he's thrown a pick. He was picked off, I believe, twice against the Chiefs in that matchup. And you look at this Jets secondary, this is what's keeping them in games, is how good this defense is. So they're going to make it hard on Herbert. And I also think that, the defense is, I believe they're ranked fourth in takeaways this season. They forced multiple turnovers in 4 games of 7 contests. And again, the Chargers just find a way to lose every single game, and more time than not, a Herbert interception is the culprit. So if it's only at -105, I kind of feel like this should be like -45, -145. So I'll take it.
All right, I just want to clarify real quickly, Katie, that as far as like the primetime unders, that first bet should be the first half under, because I think this game gets off to a crawl. So that total is at 20 right now, and I just don't see how they get to 20 in the first half. So while I like the full game under, I do like the first half under just a touch more.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one, because who knows, with the way that these games go too, they can get a little loose somewhere in the end. But it usually starts off lower scoring. Is there another bet that you're looking at for this game?
Yes. If I'm looking for TD scores, everyone loves TD scores.
Yeah.
Now you can look at the odds for him to be the first touchdown scorer of the game, but I'm going to take the anytime touchdown with Austin Eckler, anytime TD. It's at -110. Big part of the offense, and if they're going to him, if Herbert's going to him, he's going to get one.
Yeah.
110 seems you're laying juice on an anytime touchdown score, but you're not laying a lot. It's kind of like the well, not quite like it, but I wish it was like it. The McCaffrey anytime touchdown, because that just seems cash.
Yeah.
It is the gift that keeps on giving.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing about the McCaffrey thing too is it's been juiced, right? -170 something, -200. And so I'm like, it still cashes, so it's still good. But then I've been like, okay, maybe I'll do the 2+ touchdowns. And then I don't end up doing it because I get scared off. And then the last 2 weeks, he scored 2 touchdowns. And I'm like, God, we could have been hitting +200 on those. And McCaffrey is just an automatic at this point. Add him to every parlay that you possibly can if you don't want to pay the big juice. So I'm looking at Zach Wilson. I'm not touching anything in the pass game for this guy because you just don't know what you're going to get. But I do like him over the 13.5 rushing yards. He has 123 rush yards on the season, 23 attempts. He's averaging about 17.6 yards per carry. So he's run over this mark in 71% of games played, 5 out of 7. Again, I do think that the Chargers defense has been kind of hit or miss. I think they're starting to heat up a little bit. I think they can get the pressure, and I do think that Zach Wilson's going to be scrambling a little bit. So I'll take him over the 13.5. It's at -111. One more pick for TNF, Carmine.
All right. We are going to dip into the New York Jets for this one. We're going to go with Breece Hall, over 19.5 receiving yards. Becoming a bigger part of the offense, at least the last few weeks. You've got the Chargers, who allow the league worst 297 yards per game. And you look at Hall's last 3 games, 3 games back, 3 receptions for 17 yards out of the backfield. And then 5 for 54 and 6 for 76. So he's getting more targets, and I can just see it happening again against a defense that does allow a lot of passing yards.
Yep.
Your RB coming out of that backfield is a good one.
Yeah. And I'm on the same train as you are. You obviously have better odds here at -115. I took him over the 2.5 receptions, which, if we're going to get this one, then we're definitely going to get the other one. It's at -148. So it's like a little bit juicy, but basically the same reasons that you said. The Jets are 3.5-point dogs here. So the game script likely going to be passing. And then the Chargers defense this year, opposing teams have rushed for the 10th fewest adjusted yards in the NFL, just 98 per game. So maybe the run game is going to be a little bit stifled. And so they're going to open them up with some of those screen passes. And over the last 3 games, Hall as a receiver, 14 catches, 17 targets, 147 yards. So I do think that he's going to see some love in that screen game and be utilized more on the receiving end. So if you like those, take Carmine's because he's going to get you better odds. But the 2.5 is quite low, I think. For Breece Hall. All right, let's take a look at a Thursday night football. Just a quick, we thought this one was gross. We have the Carolina Panthers and the Chicago Bears. And the Bears somehow are a field goal favorite. They're minus 160 on the money line. This total 40 and a half. I think you just, okay, yep, you agree with me too. You got to go under. And I think we talked about historic night games. Night games unders are now what, 61 and 29 in the past 2 seasons. This season alone, 20 of 26, 76% of the time hitting the under. These teams are gross. These offenses are not fun to watch. I doubt they get even close to 40.
Yeah, I don't see it happening as well too. It is just having these teams consistently go up and down the field, playing sort of error-free football. I just don't see it happening. They haven't been able to do it all season long. Why are they going to do it just because they're playing themselves? Some people subscribe to the theory of, well, when you put 2 bad teams on the field, you're going to see a lot of points. Not necessarily. We've seen, listen, and I'm not calling the Jets or the Giants very bad teams or bad teams, but
You
you
could.
put those 2
You
teams on the
could.
field
Yeah.
and they had more punts than points in that game. We've seen some absolute dogs this season as far as Thursday night games. Thankfully, Sunday nights they can flex games, and they have the ability to flex Thursday games as well too. But they have to give the teams a month's notice in advance,
Ooh.
and this would have been a good time to flex this one out
Yes.
of there. But no, I like the under here. I think it stays under the total.
I agree. I think it's going to be a gross one. Real quick, just because you alluded to it, what is going on with the Giants this year? I mean, a lot of people thought they were going to have a little bit of regression, but this is not a little bit of regression. I mean, this is disgusting football that they are playing. And I know that there's been some injuries, but what is going on in New York?
Yeah, well, you look at it, and regression was expected, but last season, their final record was deceiving because a lot of the
Right.
times they were on the
Lucky.
wrong end of every single analytic number, but had so many games in which they won by there's so many games decided by a score or less, and they seemed to be on the right end of it. It's kind of like the people talked about the Vikings and being involved in so many one-score games and coming out on the right side of them.
Yeah.
It's not working for them this year. They are losing the analytic battle. They are losing they're losing the game on the scoreboard as well too. Changes need to be made, but we'll see. I have faith in
Stable.
Brian Dable, but we'll see what he can do with this team. It is tough. He's in a tough conference. He's in a tough conference. He's also
Yeah.
in a tough division.
One thing I do want to ask you about, because you hit on it with the Giants being, a very lucky team last year, and you brought up the Vikings. Obviously, Kirk Cousin out for the season with the Achilles tear. Hopefully, he gets in charge or gets in touch with Aaron Rodgers, because Aaron Rodgers seems to be walking and doing all kinds of things. Just a couple months off of his tear. How about Josh Dobbs? I mean, he's been with the organization, 2 days, comes in there, and he had said not only does he not know the playbook, he doesn't even know everybody's names. And he went out there and he balled out. And I just love this story. I thought he was great in Arizona. When he started out there, of course, they got less frisky and different things happening. But what do you think of Dobbs? Was it just kind of like a lucky start, or do you think he can actually do something with the Vikings?
No, I think he can do something with the Vikings, and like you said, he'd only been there like that week.
Ah,
Didn't get much of the playbook, and it wasn't as if they were playing. There might have been some basic routes or basic
yeah,
plays out of their playbook, but he wasn't playing the sort of the schoolyard. Everyone run, I'll find someone to throw to.
yeah,
We saw him do it in the first few weeks of the season with Arizona. He had that team competing.
yeah,
Their defense was just falling apart in the second half of games against Washington, against I think against the New York Giants, where they were blowing leads. But he was doing his job, and that's one of the reasons when we talked about games looking ahead to like next week, I started to look at the total. I'm thinking, all right, you got David
mm,
Carr and New Orleans, and you've got Dobbs with Minnesota, and the totals sitting at like 40 or 41, but it hasn't gotten some action. It was at 38 originally, and now it's up to 40, 41. That's actually
yeah,
a play just to throw in an extra one that I would
yeah.
actually lean to taking
The over or
because
the under?
before it hits the key number of 42, yeah, the over.
Yeah.
Um, he's playing well, and and he's got now a team in front of him
Yeah.
that hopefully isn't going to blow many leads.
Well, look, Jordan Addison has been very exciting to watch. You got to think that I don't know how many weeks until Justin Jefferson comes back, but he should be coming back pretty soon with that hamstring injury. I mean, he's got the weapons. He's got better weapons in Minnesota than he had even in Arizona, and he was able to make something out of nothing there. So I'm excited. I just think it's a great story, and obviously Kirk Cousins, like what a nice guy. You know, it was just so sad to see him go down like that. But Carmine, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy Wager Talk schedule. My favorite thing about you, Carmine, is that you bet everything. You want a hockey play, he's got a hockey play for you. You want soccer, he's got soccer, baseball, football, CFL, you name it. But talk to everybody about what you got going on and where they can find your plays.
Yeah, so if you head over to wagertalk.com, you can look under the expert or cappers plays there. My name is there. You'll see Carmine Bianco, and it'll take you to my page, tells you all of my current streaks. It's been a good NFL season. This weekend was, full disclosure, this weekend was a little rough with some of these games, but it didn't go my way. But I'm looking to continue, and we've had a couple of 5-0 weeks in the circa, the circa millions. This week might be, a little bit of regression, but we're in the running to cash in the circa millions. So hopefully we can continue that as well too. May not be 100K, but whatever we can get this year, whatever I can get this year from it, would be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, because I think the last time you were on here, you were telling me that you won last year.
Yeah, I won the first quarter last year of the circa millions, 18-1-1 against the spread, and 105K. So it was a nice little payday.
That's a very nice payday. I've never won that amount of money, and I hope to someday be just like you. You can follow Carmine on social at Carmine Bianco WT. The WT, of course, stands for Wager Talk. This has been Moxie Bets presented by Caesar Sportsbook. Don't forget to follow us on social at Moxie Bets. Thanks for hanging with us. Good luck on your bets, and thank you again, Carmine.